Welcome back to the studio. I am going to texturize this lovely slab of clay with our repeating leaf stencil. And I am going to pony roll this pattern in, and I haven't decided yet. I may carve some out. I'm not sure. I'm going to see how it looks once I pull up the texture. And what we are going to make with this slab is our size C for our 6.5 inch. You can see how big it is with my hands here. This will make a small planter or a vase. So I'm going to use our 6.5 inch jig today, and we are going to lay in this lovely texture to get the slab ready for that. So I have my outline. You can see preliminary outline. I have my stencil here. When you buy our jigs, we have our stencils available. Our template available for free on our website for a free download. So what you'll do is download this file. You'll print it 2 times. So this is what you'll get. And then you'll print it twice, tape it together. And then I like to transfer my paper templates onto craft foam because it's just a little more durable. I took my template, I laid it down on my slab, and I have traced lightly the outline here. So I know exactly what I need to do for framing my texture. So what I'm going to do, because it's curved at the bottom, which is going to make this cone shape, I am going to start with my biggest leaf, my statement leaf right here, because the seam will be on the other side. So what I'm going to do here is just take my fingers and I'm going to start lightly pressing the stencil, okay? Just to get it set before we get our roller out. I just want to make sure that I'm making contact with my clay here. Now, I always give my bottom a little bit of space because I will come in when I attach the bottom and I will do a lot of treatment to my bottom seam. So any texture that I put really close to the bottom of this cut will get lost anyhow. So now that I have my stencil lightly pressed on, what I want to avoid is putting a really deep line against the ridge here. So as I'm going over these leaves, I'm going to make sure that I'm not pushing down really close to the edge. So I'm going to start with my middle one. And I'm going to start with the flat edge of my pony roller first, okay? I'm not going to worry about getting too close to the edges first. We're going to do a couple passes. And then as I get close to this seam over here, I am not putting pressure down the edge of the stencil. I'm just making sure I'm getting all of the pattern covered. I will get into these areas a little more deeply after I've got the bigger portions laid in. Again, on this side here, sorry, you're getting a little bit of a glare from my ring light. Let's try that. On this side here, you'll see it's kind of white and bubbly there. I'm not putting a bunch of pressure there. I want to minimize the amount of lines that I want to erase. So I'll have to erase that. I don't want to really push in deep there because it just makes more work for me. Okay, so I'm going to now switch my pony roller over to the other side. And this is what's really gonna lay this stencil in deep. And then with the smaller side of the pony roller, I have more control over where I'm putting the pressure and over how far to the edge I'm going with this. So I can also water etch this. This stencil can be used for sgraffito. I can take this at leather hard or at bisque and apply this stencil the same way I'm doing now. And I can do a bunch of different design elements with this one stencil. I'm not putting too deep a texture in towards the lip of this piece because I'm gonna end up rounding out and smoothing that down anyhow. So I think that is enough. I'm going to take this stencil, I'm going to lift it. I'll lift it away from me so you can see. And we will expose this really beautiful deep texture. How lovely is that? Really beautiful, nice crisp lines. This gives us another alternative to give us a little bit more of control over our placement. So now at this point, I've got my main pattern laid in, and now I get to pick from my stencil here which leaves I want to put where. So I want another big one over here. So I'm going to lay this one in. I'm going to stay up and down, trying to stay perpendicular with the bottom here. And now I'm just gonna isolate this leaf here. I don't wanna put any pressure over the marks that I've already made. So I am making sure I can see my previous mark under there. I'm gonna make sure that I am not putting any extra pressure on that side. I'm just gonna make sure I'm right over this pattern on this side. And the cool thing is you can kind of, well, you have 100% control over where you're laying in your texture, which I really like. This is a good alternative if you want a little bit of a different look than your rolling pin texture, which I'm a big fan of, just the continuous texture that that gives. This is gonna be our joining seam over here. So I think I am actually gonna take it up to this small leaf up top here. And I like to Bob Ross it and just kind of make my design choices as I go. See how I'm feeling, see how everything is looking. Now that looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead. And the veins of these leaves are kind of thin, so you want to pull up slowly so we're not ripping our stencil. Now that is beautiful. I see a little bit of a blank spot there, so I'm going to take my smallest leaf right here. Again, isolating this one design element here. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to impress this small leaf here. I'm taking care not to run into any of my other designs. We'll really dig that in deep, and then we'll pull up lightly, and we are just having a beautiful repeating deep pattern there. Now I've got this side over here that I'm going to address. I think I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to put a really big leaf right up in this area here. Even though that's going to run into my seam a little bit, I'm not worried about that. I can go ahead and just smooth what I need to smooth and keep what I need to keep. So I'm making sure I'm not interfering with any other design elements. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to roll this really big leaf in. I love these stencils. They're really sturdy and really easy to work with. If I wanted to come in and carve this, I would leave my stencil in and I would come in and I would take my V tool and I would just carve right around the stencil. But I am loving the impression we're getting by just rolling it into the clay. So pretty. Okay, I think I'm gonna do just the tip of one here. This is where you can get really creative and make your own choices. And then it keeps it to a one-of-a-kind situation. Very pretty, and I like that. So I'm gonna follow this small one, and I'm gonna fill in these small gaps there. Mostly because I don't know when to stop, and I love texture. So I'm loving what that's doing. And sometimes you don't know, it's hard to make the decision in the beginning. You just don't know what it's gonna look like, and I can see that this started to kind of develop a pattern, and I wanted to just fill this bottom in with this leaf. So you can make your own choices. And then I'm going to fill in just this top area up here, and I think that should do it. So as you can see, really easy way to add design. Another surface technique, design technique for you to add to your toolbox. And I am just loving that. So don't forget to release your slab when you're done. And then I will come through and I will cut my template. I'll cut my shape out, and then this will create a beautiful planter for me. So again, this is our repeating leaf stencil. It's on the website right now, and this is our 10-inch stencil. Thanks for popping by. I hope you had a good time putting in this lovely leaf pattern with us today.